Welcome back to the Capture Your Confidence podcast. We are talking this week about the art of letting go and why moving on can boost our confidence.
And isn't it just like a girl to just hang on like a hair in a biscuit? Just hang on to the daggum thing when it makes you physically ill. And you know what I'm talking about, whether it's a person who makes you upset or a fight that you had with someone and you're hanging on to the thing about it, or the fact that you lost something that you really wanted to win, or
a job.
Yes, a job or promotion, anything like that. Like you are hanging on like it's going to keep you alive.
Yeah. And, you know, you don't necessarily in the moment realize it, right? But then you go and look back and you're like, this is why my confidence and self-esteem and all these other things were having a hard time. Like it wasn't a me problem. It was that I wasn't letting go of things that weren't serving me.
And here's how we know you got to let go. If somebody brings up something that happened a year ago and you're still salty, it's time to let it go. If somebody mentions something to you and immediately you feel your hackles go up and you're triggered, like, ooh, that's how we got some work to do.
Yeah. Think of all the mental clutter, all the space that takes up, holding on to those things. You are filing away these little grievances and they're taking up space in your brain.
So we're going to talk about how we think the art of letting go really impacts the confidence journey and some of the tactical things that we have worked on to help us relinquish some of the stuff that's taking up mental purchase and keeping us from really being able to be present and focus on where we want to go in our life too.
Yes. So, okay, let's talk about the connection between letting go and confidence. So some benefits there.
So to me, I think when you hang on to something, you give it power. And if you can just realize that by letting go of the thing that you're hanging on to, you're reclaiming some of that power, it starts to become easy for you to understand why it's important, right? Like I would ask yourself some questions. Why is it that I'm holding on so tightly to this thing?
Yeah.
You know, what is it that I think I'm protecting myself from by continuing to ruminate over this story or this outcome?
Yeah. And one that I love is this idea of resilience, and you are learning how to flex that muscle, knowing that you can bounce back, that something can go in a direction that you didn't intend, but you can still recover and you can still bounce back and there is a tomorrow. And I think just having that experience makes you stronger, builds that trust in yourself, and inevitably leads to stronger self-confidence.
Yeah, and think about how many people, you know, make up a story about what letting go means, right? Like if I let go of this thing, it means I didn't want it bad enough, or I didn't care enough, or that person didn't matter to me, or whatever it was. It's like, stop assigning a narrative that makes you either weak or bad because you're letting something that doesn't serve you go.
Yeah.
Start reinforcing the narrative that you're a growing, evolving, changing human whose priorities, goals, and values shift over time. And you continue to hold the mental clutter doesn't serve where you're going.
Yeah. And another benefit is it helps us practice solid boundaries.
For sure.
Around what can stay and what needs to go.
Yeah. And I've yet to meet a woman who doesn't have a problem with boundaries in some way, whether their own boundary, the boundaries that she's like setting with herself, or even communication or boundaries with her other relationships. Often the ones that are the boundaries that you hold with yourself are the ones that no one else can see. And so those become the hardest ones for you to sort of reinforce. And this radical act of letting something go can be a really good exercise into allowing yourself to honor a boundary that you set.
Yeah. And protect your own energy.
Yeah.
You know? Okay. So how do we do it? Like, what are some strategies that help us let go?
Yeah. You know, I personally love this example that I use in the shower. So often I do like a lot of ruminating in the shower. If anyone's like me, then you'll resonate with this. But when I'm standing in the shower, if I have something that's weighing on me that I just cannot seem to let go of, I will literally envision like the soap bubbles from my shampoo. I will pick one bubble and I will watch it wash all the way down my body and into the drain.
I love this.
And when it gets into the drain, I have to let it go. And so I will give myself that moment of it like moving down my body to like get right with the fact that like I'm actively choosing to let this go, like mourn whatever I need to mourn, feel whatever I need to feel, because once that bubble goes in the drain, it's gone and I'm not going to hold on to it anymore.
I love that. That's just like our friend Reagan, who talks about this idea of having a few moments in pity city and then moving on.
Exactly. I mean, listen, we're never going to tell you to just ignore the way that you feel. You feel the way you feel for a reason, and you facing that and owning that is part of the process. But when you ruminate it and you stay in it for too long, AKA you hold on to it, that's when it becomes a real problem, right?
Yes. What are your thoughts on if you're not quite ready to maybe do this in one fell swoop,
Well, and who is?
right? How do we do this in like actionable, like small steps?
So often I find it always happens this way for me. Like it'll come up, a thing that I want to let go of, but I can't seem to, it will come up in a thought for me. And so I will allow myself to hold that thought for a moment. And then I will like actively tell myself, I'm choosing to let this go for right now. The for right now, I think is really important.
Yeah.
Because if you're not ready to let it go, just even giving yourself the for right now, I can't change this. That at least will help you. And those periods will get longer between the times when you think about it, right?
Yeah. I think too that the act of doing it once, even it like that in the moment, like gives you the energy and the momentum to do it again.
It's that part of the process where we realize we didn't die. Right?
Yeah.
We let this thing go. We decided it was too heavy to carry. We set the bag down for a moment and we realized the world kept moving.
Yeah.
And it's that part that allows us and gives us that permission the next time it comes up for us. Because listen, breaking old habits and breaking old mental patterns are deeply difficult. So it's not going to happen overnight, but you'll find that that first permission that you give yourself,
Yes.
it's the heaviest part of the bag. And then you
Yes.
just got you maybe a couple rocks in your pocket here or there. You got to dig
Yes.
down, you know?
Yes. I had funny story. We were walking out of somewhere, my son and I, and he saw a bumper sticker that said, "But you didn't die." And he read that and he's like, "That is so weird. What does that mean?" And I was like, "Oh, child, let me tell you what that means." So I was like, I'm very happy to see this on a bumper sticker, you know?
T-shirt that says, "But did you die?"
See? Okay. So how do we like visualize what this looks like? For me, I think of mindset shifts and letting go. You know, our friend Simi talks about perfectionism, judgment. That one resonates a lot. People thinking you should do something a certain way, especially when you kind of are in politics. That's a very common, you know, this fear of like, well, everyone else does it this way, so maybe I should do it, you know, this way instead of my way. But when you let go of that, you're like, you feel lighter, you feel the confidence grow.
Yeah. And I honestly think about it. It's just a choice. Like I can choose to focus on this thing and carry this thing with me, or I can choose to say, I don't want this thing anymore.
Yeah.
And I might have to choose it over and over again in the same way that I choose to get up out of bed and go put on my tennis shoes and move my body, or, you know, show up and do that hard work that I don't want to do in whatever area of my life. Right. But it's a choice. And so for me, it's, you know, it's less about like a mindset shift and more about just like a willingness over and over again to commit to a different path.
Yeah. And I think you get more clear on your choices. It becomes easier to make the choices. The no's become easier and the yeses become easier. And you just get in the habit of being able to make very precise, clear decisions because you've been doing it.
Yeah. I mean, I've noticed that I let go faster and I make decisions faster after years and years of doing that hard work. And I mean, some things are easier to let go of than others, right? I mean, there's some that require a lot more work and effort and storytelling, mental storytelling.
Yeah.
But some are easy, and the easy ones come really fast now, right? Because of all that work with the heavy ones.
Yeah. And talk about the emotional freedom that comes from knowing that you have cut something out, let something go that didn't need to be there.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, if you took stock, if you just spent one day writing down every worry that came across your mind, you would be flabbergasted at some of the things that are taking up space, even things that don't seem like a big deal. I'll give you an example of one, which is hilarious, that I hung on to this thing. So one of our girlfriends does this charity drive every holiday season, and she asks everyone to get gifts. And it's not just get a gift, you have to put together like a gift basket, and she gives you families, and they have like sizes of every member in the family. You have to get pajamas for them, and it's like a whole thing. It's like work. It's as if you're literally cultivating a meaningful gift for someone you've never met before, in addition to all the things you
your
already
own.
do. She has asked me multiple years in a row, and I've always done it. And every time she asks me, the feeling of dread that washes over my body is so overwhelming, because I want to do a nice thing. I just don't want to go through the work of doing that thing.
Yeah.
And so for years I did this begrudgingly. For years.
That feels very aligned with the spirit of the season.
Yes. For years I did this thing even though I didn't want to do it, until finally I just was like, oh my gosh, let me know if there's any way that I can support monetarily. I love what you're up to. I just don't have the bandwidth for it.
Yeah.
I felt like crap saying that. I did not feel good saying that. But the knowledge that I did not have to curate those pajama sets was the ultimate act of freedom. I was like, wow, that one really weighed on me. I didn't even realize how much it weighed on me until I had cut it off. And I'm like, you've been hanging on to that one, girly.
Right. And, that brings up a great example of how you can cut part of something out, like the part you don't like, but you can still be a philanthropic human in the holidays and find some other ways to donate or contribute. For sure. Yesterday, I was at a PTO meeting, which, it's just a joke between us, but I'm in the PTO meeting and I'm responsible for the silent auction at the school carnival. And I love this chore or this task. I shouldn't call it a chore. I'm actually sign up willingly. But the thing I don't like is running around and picking stuff up or dropping stuff off. Yeah. Like I want to do the computer part, the silent auction part. So we were at a meeting yesterday and I said, I am happy to do A, B, and C. D and E, I cannot do. And I saw the other people, and there's a way to get rid of D and E, right? There was a way that we could alter the way we use the silent auction program to where nobody would have to do D and E. Okay. And D and E are like the pick up and drop off that nobody wants to do. Okay. So we could have made a rule that you have to be at the auction to get the prize. But people were nervous that maybe we wouldn't make as much money because, people might not participate if they're like, I'm not going to be at the auction. So I watched 4 or 5 other women convince themselves to do D and E in the name of this silent auction. And it was not appropriate for me to coach in that moment, but I wanted to tell them, friends, none of us need to do D and E because I'm watching the dread on your face.
Yeah, I can see you saying yes and you don't want to.
Right? But I'm glad I was able to say no and articulate that.
You are a living example. Maybe next year they'll say no, Steph.
I mean, in the off season, I need to just let them know that it's okay to say no. And that's something that we all can let go of as a team.
I'm going to tell you, maybe don't tell them that unless they ask your opinion about it.
That might be good. I don't want to get kicked off the PTO.
It's just occurred to me that we have to get t-shirts and yours says PTO and mine says PT no. Because I refuse.
That's very cute.
Yeah.
And we can wear them together.
Side by
side. Okay. Good idea.
See, the things that we let go. I've never been the kind of mom that needs to be on the PTO. I love all of you moms for doing that work for me. I appreciate you deeply.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
It's not going to be me. So let's tie this one up.
Yeah.
And think about some of the ways that you listening can take some action towards actually letting go of the thing that's hanging on.
Yes. I think first is identify what the thing is. Like start with one thing that you need to let go of.
And then create your own ritual. You want to borrow my shower one? Fine. You want to literally visually see yourself setting the bag down? Whatever it is, create a mini ritual that you and you alone can do that will reinforce the action of you physically letting go of the thing that's mentally holding you back.
Yes. I had a therapist tell me one time you could light something on fire, like write it on a piece of paper and then burn it, which I thought was kind of cool. And then replacing what you release. Yeah. So make sure when you get rid of the bad that you're filling it with the good.
Yeah, right. Instead of doing this thing I didn't want to do, I'm focusing my extra time on this thing I do want. Or instead of putting my mental energy towards this thing that was really holding me back, I'm going to focus my mental energy on becoming the kind of person that I want to become.
Right. Yeah. And then lastly, pay attention to how this goes and track the benefits you feel. What does this look like a month down the road, 6 months down the road? And pay attention to how much lighter you feel.
We are cheering you on as you let it go, our sisters.
Yes, we will talk to you soon.